So we get straight to the point. I am safe. I am unharmed. As you saw in the title, robbed at gunpoint. I was robbed at gunpoint after the holiday weekend. I was done with my work day. I had gone to a gas station, and this happened. Decided to make this video because of the thousands of robberies that probably happen every single day. I would imagine large some of them, probably even the majority of them, are done to people like me who have never been robbed at gunpoint. And as much as I enjoy everyone who is tuning in to find out what happened and who want to make sure I'm okay and is curious and wants to hear the story, I appreciate you. I really do hope to help reach the people who, like me, were a little scared afterwards, maybe need a little reassurance that everything's going to be okay. I am not a healthcare professional, and if you are in a difficult place, I really recommend, and this happened to you, or any kind of difficult place, I really recommend you seek mental health counseling as soon as possible. And as always, please, because I really do care, if you think about hurting yourself, pause this, go straight, contact a suicide hotline immediately, prevention hotline immediately. Please do that. So now on to the rest of the story. This has been really hard for me to think about doing, but every video I've done has been to talk about the challenges I faced, and sometimes feeling like nobody was addressing what I was going through, and this is kind of the same thing. So first I'm going to speak to those that might have just happened to, and the first day, it is very strange. You feel nothing but shame, unadulterated shame, or I did, and I spoke to several other people who I know have had this happen to them, and their feelings or their emotions were very similar. No, it makes no sense. I don't need anyone to tell me that it wasn't my fault. I know darn well it was not my fault. I know exactly what happened. I couldn't do anything about. I got out of the truck, I turned the corner, and I had a gun in my face. There's no options at that point in time. You do what's said. At that point, all my stuff was removed. Thankfully, my wallet was in an unusual location, and I'm not going to bother telling you too many details, because some of it's for the police and some of it's just nobody's business, and I don't want to talk about it. And that's okay. If this happens to you, you talk about what you want to. I highly suggest not going straight to social media, because the comments are pretty rough. Even people who love you say some things that, it's a little hard to process to begin with. But took my phone, took the things out of my pocket, took me over to the right side of the truck, had me open up the door, had me crawl underneath the truck, and took stuff out of the truck very calmly. I kept a dialogue with him, so we stayed calm, and everything worked out for the best. I'm okay. Just by good grace of me randomly putting my wallet in a strange place, and he didn't know to look there. Where it happened doesn't matter. Who it was doesn't matter. That's all for the police. This is just to talk about the aftermath. It sucked. Like I said, that first day I felt nothing but shame. And I don't know, everyone's emotions are going to be different. Just accept it. If you're helping somebody go through this, just accept what they're feeling. I couldn't stop it. There was no logic. I knew the logic in my brain, but my emotions were going. I kind of learned very early on, because the person had taken my keys and threw them. This was one of my bargaining positions, was being able to get my keys tossed after I'd stashed my wallet somewhere underneath the truck. But we never found him, so I had to get my company involved, which then I had to sit there and tell a terminal manager, and then I had to tell a safety guy, and then I had to tell a regional manager, and I had to tell my terminal manager. Then we had to talk about 20 different drivers to get another set of keys, because they didn't have a key to my truck. Oh, yeah. Embarrassment and shame was my whole day. It's not logical. And there, I learned very quickly that comments that may have been good intentioned or otherwise could easily bring me very close to the boiling point and very close to rage, and some of them were probably innocent, but That's why I say, if this has happened to you, I'm going to be very careful in trying to repeat this story to too many people, because you may not be emotionally ready for the way some people respond. I didn't sleep that first day at all. So the next day, I was sleep deprived, so I was jumpy. I had extreme anxiety. These are all things you do when you're sleep deprived anyway, and I was, way keyed up from what had just happened. It's been over 7 days, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm perfectly okay, and that's okay. I know a lot of people, some people are going to say, oh, get over it, or man up, or whatever BS statement they want to say. Don't listen to them. If this hasn't happened to you, or if it has happened to you, and you remember, processing it can be harder for some and easier for others, and everyone goes through their own thing. It's okay. It's perfectly okay. And if you are a person who someone is calling or conveying the story to, I highly suggest keep your thoughts to yourself. Just ask them what happened, ask them how they feel, tell them, but don't tell them, well, I would have disarmed the guy, I would have beat him up, that's why I carry a gun. We don't want your darn opinion, and you weren't there. By the way, if this hasn't happened to you, and you want to say, oh, that's why I want to carry a gun, I have news for you. You sound like a blithering moron to someone who's been through this, because I had all of about an 18th of a second to process that there was a gun in my face, and he had a tactical light. So I was blinded on top of it. All a gun would have done is add one more thing to him. Had I been wearing it on my hip, I probably would have been shot, because he wouldn't have wanted to take the risk. Just blow my brains out, then take the gun. Because guess what? That gun has more value on the street than anything I had. The guy probably got $20 worth of stuff. Because the phone's worthless to him, and the stuff he took in my bag was all worthless. Why he took my work hats, I don't know. Sweatshirt, and first aid kit, all stupid stuff. A gun, hundreds. That's value on the street, and it's worth it. This guy wasn't a junkie, so I might not have got my brains blown out for a gun, but it still would have been his. There wasn't an option. By the time I could calculate and know what was happening, it was way too late to pull a weapon. Far too late. I didn't see it coming. So, please, even if you think you're right, even if you think I'm wrong, even if you think the person to whom you are talking to who is robbed is wrong, don't bring it up. It is not the time. I don't want to hear about guns. I don't want to hear about violence. I promise you, most people, the few people that I've talked to who I know this had went through, and a few people who reached out to me, I went through this and had happened to them, they don't want to hear it. They don't. They think your opinion's fairly stupid, because they all, trust me, we replay this in our head a lot, 1 billion times in the first week. And if you're going through this, I'm sorry to tell you, it's going to come up a lot. You're going to replay it and replay it and replay it. Nowhere in there, in all of my replays, is there any possibility. Moment by moment, I have played it in my head. I don't want to hear it. Neither do they. So please keep your opinion about disarming the guy, beating the guy up, pulling a gun on him, pulling a knife on him. Please keep it to yourself. Because even if you're right, the first day I felt unadulterated shame, and I did everything right. I know I did. But that's how I felt. Do you think I need you needling me? And by the way, if this has happened to you, someone starts in on you, change the subject or hang up on them. It's not worth it. I stuck into a conversation for 10-15 minutes like that, and it ruined my day. Just don't. As soon as it goes down that path, hey, I gotta go, I got this phone call coming in from my insurance company or whatever, just go. You can't have that conversation with that person. And I know they may truly think that they're doing good, but as soon as you feel your anxiety start to rise, get off the phone with them, or walk away, pretend to make a phone, whatever. Just trust me on that one. If you can, if that's all you want to talk about, then you're on a different path than I was, and so I can't speak to that. This second night, I took sleep aids and I passed out hard. And every night since, getting to sleep has been a little bit harder than I care to admit. And sometimes in a crowd, I'm a little bit more anxious than I have ever been. And my heart rate gets up when it looks like confrontation or anything that can even come close. It's all will pass in time. Again, if you're having a really hard time dealing with this, progressively feeling better and the anxiety's lowering and all that. But if you're having a hard time with this, do not be afraid to seek counseling. I mean, just don't be afraid. And if you know someone who's gone through this and you can tell they're having a hard time with this, please suggest to them. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I think you might need a little counseling. And it's okay. Because it is okay. This is traumatic. By the way, that's another thing. If you're helping somebody who's gone through this, I don't need to hear how you had a situation that was worse. Just imagine if that situation was worse, what was the last thing you wanted to hear after that situation? Whether it be combat or something horrible that's happened in your life, what's the last thing you wanted to hear? Somebody tell you how you have it good and they had it worse. Just keep it to yourself. And if you've got someone who's doing that to you, again, kindly get out of the conversation. It's not healthy. I don't need to hear how someone had it worse, because then I start thinking I have to go replay it again. My brain just automatically goes, oh, could I have done something different? Should I have? And I have no control over that. For those of you who think I'm a pussy or a child or not man enough, screw you. Literally, screw off. I don't have control over this. This is mental health, and I'm okay with it. In fact, I really debated not making this, but again, like I said, I hope to help someone who's gone through this, or help someone who's helping someone who's gone through this, make it a little bit easier. It sucks, but it will get better, and if it doesn't, please seek counseling. I hope that this all is more coherent than it sounded in my head. I had this all worked out. I have been discombobulated over the last week, and I had a little, I don't know, I slept most of the weekend, and I was in a bad temper, and I forget things, and I'm just a little off, and I can't quite get back on. In fact, the other day, I was getting to take my pills, and I poured the water into my hand instead of pouring the pills into my hand. It upset me, just because I couldn't believe that I couldn't even think. And so I'm doing the best I can on this video to try to keep it coherent and keep it flowing. But remember, the most important thing about this is, and if it ever happens to you, and Lord, I hope it never happens to anybody who's watching. I hope no one ever has to go through this. But as long as you walk away unharmed with your life, that's all that matters. The rest is just stuff. It's just stupid stuff. And it's a little bit easier for me to put. I've always had that perspective. Like, I've never understood why somebody loses their mind over a little dent in their car. It's just a thing. But my belief that things aren't important in life is even more accentuated by this event. I look at those people like in Oregon who are armed militia protecting their stuff, afraid of looters. Stuff. It is the stupidest thing in the world. It could have took all my stuff. As long as I walked away with my life, I wasn't harmed. My family was hundreds and hundreds of miles away, thankfully. They've been with me as long as they weren't harmed. That's the only important thing. It snapped a whole lot back in perspective for me. And it's a clarity I really wish I never had. It's a clarity and an understanding into some of what victims feel, and I don't understand. By no means am I near the victim as some people have been, and I was not nearly assaulted or violated in a way that other people have. But I had sympathy or empathy, but I didn't have an understanding. I was very naive about some of the things that victims go through. And I think this is a tiny glimpse into that for me. because again, I say there is much worse that could happen, and this was, in the scheme of things, minor, but it's still major. Never forget, whatever happens, it's major. A violation is a violation. Why did I feel shame that whole day? Because I was dehumanized. My humanity was from the moment crawling underneath the truck. I was dehumanized. I had a hard time accepting that. I had a hard time accepting that it happened to me. It couldn't happen to me. Whatever. And that's okay. But just, if you haven't gone through any of this, be thankful for it. Be very thankful. I never wanted this insight. I really wish I didn't understand the more that I understand. But as I do understand that, you really do need to trust in victims. Trust in the people who've gone through it to understand that they're having a hard time. And there's no logic to it. Why did I feel shame? Why do I still feel shame? Even making this. My heart rate's up, and I feel shame just making this video to admit it to the world. This is horribly hard to call my husband and tell him what happened. Horribly hard. So, it's okay. If someone goes through this and they call you, they want to talk to you, try to be there. Try not to make them feel any more shame. And if you're feeling it, it's okay. It'll pass. I know it's not your fault. I know you're probably playing it over and over in your head, and I know these feelings are very hard to control. I can't stop my brain from thinking the way it thinks. Get the mental health if you need it. Give it time. I wish you all the best. If you need to know anything, DM me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can find me. Downtown Radar, or Hey Rondell, or just Rondell. All those things there. I'd be more than happy to talk to you. More than happy to, I have nothing to say that'll make it feel better, but I'll be more than willing to listen. And remember, if you don't like what someone's saying after this happens, don't let it. Just walk away. That's the most important thing I can say. I had to learn that lesson early, and it's one of the most valuable things that I've been able to do. I haven't been able to turn my brain off. I've been able to make distractions, but falling asleep can be very difficult. But it's gotten better for me, and I hope it gets better for you. And if you haven't had it, I hope it never happens. Stay safe.